Good afternoon, or good evening when this goes out. I hope everyone's well today. Thank you for watching. I'm going to talk a bit about the migrant grift and the con job, the cottage industry that's grown up around this multi-billion pound con job that the British people are being exposed to and exploited on a daily basis. Make no mistake, we are being rinsed, and this is by design, and this is its purpose. It's to maximise profits for key players, shall we say? We'll call it that. So where to begin with the grift? Well, first of all, look at this image. Travelling through all these safe countries to get to England to tell Bob and Jane on the council estate waiting list for a house for their big family that they can't have a house because it's going to Abdul from Africa. That's the first part that I want to mention. That's the first part of the con. They're going through all the safe countries. Now, I've mentioned on my channel that there are many ways to skin a cat, and that is factually true, and I'm going to use that analogy to display what I'm going to say. The first thing you can do to stop the migrant con is a simple vote in the House of Commons. I suggested this under the Tories. All the ayes get the migrants, all the noes don't, i.e. only constituency MPs that vote for migrants and the open borders and the asylum con job to continue get refugees in their constituency. Any MP that doesn't vote for it doesn't get any. That's one way to stop it. See how popular those MPs would be in their constituents if they flood their constituents with migrants. That's the first way you can do it. The second way to do it is the way that Reform UK and Nigel Farage said that they're going to do it when they get in 2029, which is stop it at source, stop the migrants coming over the English Channel, send the Royal Navy in, ship them back to France. Simple as. That's going to be effective and it will get the job done. But the third option is the one that I'm going to go into in a bit more detail, and it's the one that exposes the entire con and the entire grift. Stop the people in the cottage industry making a profit from it. If this was about saving lives, if this was a true humanitarian effort, then the hotels wouldn't be making a profit. The hotels would be doing it at cost because the facilities would be requisitioned by the government and it would be forced socialism. And it wouldn't be a choice, it would be done on purpose and it would be done through the powers of the British state. I say this once, I'll say it 1,000 times. The monarch rules the United Kingdom, and his absolute powers are put in commission with elected civilians, essentially the Prime Minister. That is why when Keir Starmer says, I cannot do anything to stop the boats, I cannot do anything about migrants, I cannot do that, that is a lie. He has the absolute powers of the British monarch at his disposal, and he doesn't use them. So the British state does indeed have the power to requisition properties, it does have the power to seize private property and put it into use for, good of the realm, humanitarian effort, aid, whatever you want to call it. Essentially these chain hotels like the Britannia chain, who are getting paid billions upon billions of pounds of our money to put up these migrants, essentially the government could compel these private businesses to do it for free. That's the power of the British state. If it was about humanitarian aid and effort, that is what would be getting done. That would stop the migrant crisis overnight because nobody would be making a profit. Alright? We're going to look at this one now. We're going to look at this clip and it's going to inform exactly what I'm going to say about a particular Labour aide, Morgan McSweeney.
Her experience so far of her short premiership is if you persuade people that you're listening to what they have to say, that you don't reject their concerns as being bigoted or xenophobic, that if you talk in a language that is more in common with neglected voters than it is with the metropolitan fashionable elites, then that goes a long way. You don't have to come up with policies.
There you go. This is Fraser Nelson, by the way. He's on the Liberal side of the Tory party and would be known as a Tory wet. He's saying you don't actually have to implement policy. You just need to tell the plebs, you and me, and the other people that watch my channel that they're going to do something about it. Don't actually have to deliver on it, you just have to tell them you're going to do something about it.
Banning immigrants or anything like that. All you need to do is to basically say to people, I hear your concerns. I mean, let's look at David Cameron. He actually, I think, did quite a good job here as well.
Yeah, let's talk about David Cameron. We'll stop out there because the audio is not great, but if we remember David Cameron, he told us he would reduce immigration to the tens of thousands, as per Fraser Nelson, saying that he'd done a good job. He told us he was going to reduce immigration. Never did it. Told us he was going to do it. And Jacob Rees-Mogg betrays the rhetoric as well. He said on his GB News channel on more than one occasion, it's not about doing right-leaning things, it's about saying you're going to do right-leaning things. Which brings us into Morgan McSweeney. You may remember him. He's an aide to Keir Starmer. He's the one advising him on what to say to the Red Wall voters. Not what to do, what to say. He's the one that came up with that nation of strangers speech that a lot of the lefties in the Labour Party thought was too much. That he was echoing Enoch Powell, and that can't be right. It wasn't about implementing policy, because if we know about policy's not going to do anything. Look at Keir Starmer's policy record, and strip it from the rhetoric. Migrants are up, immigration is up, not coming down. He says he wants to smash the gangs, and it's just not happening, alright? Always listen to the rhetoric, and then see if the actions match up to what they actually say, because in Keir Starmer's case, it's not true. Now, onto the cottage industry point that I wanted to make. Morgan McSweeney, alright? Let's look at this now. Let's just have a look at this now. Morgan McSweeney, the Prime Minister's powerful Chief of Staff, is now under scrutiny. His father's accounting company has recently received $6 million in government contracts to provide asylum accommodation for asylum seekers. Financial records indicate that this firm is registered in Ireland for tax purposes because their tax rates are much lower than in the United Kingdom, and critics raise concerns about possible conflicts of interest given McSweeney's proximity to government decision making. I completely agree. Let's look at the next point. This isn't a coincidence, as cronyism at the heart of power. What it means. There's growing concern over whether public funds are being channeled through companies to political insiders. Well, we know this, that's how government works. Ethics watchdogs have fled to provide clarity but voted to serve transparency. Indeed we do. The firm's offshore registration only fuels further suspicion about hidden profiteering. If your government's top aide has family linked to lucrative asylum contracts, how clean is the system? Well, we know it's not clean. I've said this once, I'll say it 1,000 times. Look at the money, look at who's on the take. And this isn't specific to Labour, this is across the board. Because we look at this guy now. Rupert Soames, grandson of Winston Churchill, serves as chief executive of Serco, who handle asylum acquisition and accommodation in my area. HMO, next to my best friend, is owned by Serco, and they operate in the northwest of England. Under Soames' leadership, Soames held one of the largest contracts worth billions to hotel and other accommodation for asylum seekers. It's a 10-year contract initiated in 2019 and involves Serco alongside Clear Springs and Mears. Alright? So he's not a politician himself, but he's linked to the Tory party. Let's have a look at this. Rupert Soames, the guy in Serco, was never an MP. His father, Christopher Soames, was a Conservative MP. He's the grandson of Winston Churchill. And brother Nicholas Soames was a long-serving Conservative MP and minister as well. So Rupert chose the corporate path, but he's very much in a political family. This is the whole thing. It's because it's not a humanitarian aid mission. It's not to save lives. It's to make money. All of these private businesses are making money hand over fist at our expense. This is the con, and you think this is it, this is the tip of the iceberg. What about all the interpreters that we pay for? What about all the solicitors and legal aid that they're all entitled to? for some reason. You rock up on a boat in Dover tomorrow, you're automatically given all of this stuff by me. And why? Because the private stakeholders that own the hotels are making money hand over fist. Who's going to turn down free money? If this was about humanitarian aid, it would literally be all for free essentially. They'd be doing it for free, but they're not, they're doing it for profit. So to finish off, if you wanted to close down this cottage industry tomorrow, core idea, end the grift, collapse the industry, it would happen overnight. If the government truly treated asylum as a public good or humanitarian necessity, not a market opportunity, you could either requisition the space outright or compel hotels, businesses to provide accommodation at cost, not for profit. The private sector players like Serco, Mears and Clear Springs, which profit handsomely from long-term contracts, would immediately exit the markets. The entire asylum accommodation industry would collapse immediately because it's structurally dependent on guaranteed profit margins, not service delivery. Alright? This is a classic case of what economists called the rentier model. Profit not through innovation or efficiency, but by securing privileged access to government money through contracts and political connections. This is what the entire industry is based on. So the next time you get one of your lefty, liberal, not very bright MPs in Parliament saying, oh, think of the children, think of the humanitarian. No, write to your MP, write to your minister, write to anybody you can, and you explain to them what I'm explaining to you here. If it was about humanitarian aid, it wouldn't be a for-profit industry. It's as simple as that. We are being played, we are being conned, do not accept it, do not tolerate it, demand change. Now my MP, Sarah Poachin, in Reform, is on the money with all of this, and I will support her, and you need to get all of these Labour lefties out, because they preach socialism, but they're the worst capitalists of them all. Now, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, give me a like and subscribe. If you think I'm onto something with this, you let me know. I'm sure I've got a couple of lefty liberals on here trying to say, well no, it needs to be a capitalist model. No, it doesn't. Any true socialist would completely agree with what I'm going to say. The reason they won't agree with what I'm going to say is because they know that socialism breeds misery and it would collapse their model of substitute population for the gammons. Anyway, I hope I give you something to think about. Like and subscribe, do all that good stuff. Have a good day.